Hi to all God's children, whom we all are. It's good to share my story of my beloved catching me. I guess, like many, I popped out wanting to know who God was. And my first introduction, bringing up Catholic, was Jesus. And I was pretty enthralled with this little prayer book with the stories of Jesus. So that was kind of an introduction that Jesus was about love and had a God, had a Father, and had a Holy Spirit. So that was young. And in my early years too, my dad was a music lover, and I thought maybe God was music because it was just the most beautiful thing I discovered so far. And it moved me how people had a lot of feeling around music and of course dance. And a few years later, being very visual and got into photography in grade school, I was really appreciating how God made us all so uniquely beautiful. Our faces, so unique, our voices, our bodies. And I thought, well, only God could do that. So I'm feeling God must be in everyone and must be the source of all that beauty. So music in people, was feeling God. Well, I was thinking God was. And I had loving parents, and they would say God is love, and I believe that God is love. Let's see, in my high school years, I was gifted by my mother with meditation. TM first came to Detroit early in the 70s, I think it was 71. And I really felt a rapport with meditation. It just felt really good to quiet the mind, go within, take those minutes out of the day to be quiet. So I'd been meditating a while and read Siddhartha when I was younger, and it inspired me to learn more about the Buddha. And also John Lennon's song, Instant Karma. I wanted to know about karma. I had also read Auschwitz, I think I was 14, and that really upset me to become aware of the contrast of love and hate in this life. So I continued kind of studying some Buddhism and had a friend who shared the interest, so it was good to bounce things off and explore a little bit together. So I was really interested in other faiths and religions, and Hinduism kind of led me more into Buddhism, and just kind of covering, basically, not going in depth with any of them. Some Western philosophy, and Blake and Whitman, poets. So I continued meditating and graduated from high school. I had an opportunity with the International Peace Camp to go to Europe and join a bunch of other people throughout Europe mostly and build a park for children. And did some traveling, Spain and just around the area. At that time in the early 70s, there were quite a few backpackers. And I was meeting a lot of people, either at the hostels or on the road. And was really feeling a heart connection, and I wanted to connect with them heart to heart, and it seemed to happen. It seemed like the Christ within us was connecting. And it was quite a celebration and just an elation to feel that in these strangers. And, we become friends briefly. That was a real experience, and continued with the meditations, which were bringing me deeper, it seemed. And that was quite an experience, my European experience. So returned home, and I was soon off to California via Denver in the early 70s. And a friend and I decided to hitchhike to California. So we were camping on the shoreline there around Big Sur. And I had this dream of this man appeared in my dream. Well, the next morning, this man was parked in his VW bus next to me. And I was kind of startled about that. And he had expressed, I had felt, not then so much, but in reflection, you've heard, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Well, he was definitely a teacher that appeared. His van was filled with Eastern religion, books, metaphysics, Western philosophy, just 100 books probably. So I went off to the hills with him almost 9 months and was learning a lot of my interest, which were these philosophies, these ancient truths I was seeking to know more of. And doing some yoga and hiking. Of course, it's beautiful there, the nature, jumping rocks on the shore. And it all seemed like a teaching, whether it was the books or nature or the few words this man would share. He had a lot of magnetism. He used to, when we were at the shore and when I met him those first few days, there were a lot of young people around him interested what he had to say. He was telling stories, wisdom stories. And he was quite magnetic, I guess I could say. But we had a student-teacher relation. And I was just fascinated and just really into what I was uncovering in these different ancient truths, these books. And I discovered the true self. So I wanted to know, what is that? That's what I want to go after, that true self. So that was another journey I feel Baba gift gave me on the way to him. Traveled home again and kept seeking to learn more. Then it was the early 80s, where I was just feeling kind of very saddened by the world. I'd turn the TV on, I'd just start crying with the hypocrisy, not just the TV, but people thinking one thing, saying another, just that, and the greed and the lust for power and the consumerism. And it just made me very sad. I said, well, how am I going to continue this? I can't just keep crying like this. The simple thing is turning a TV on. I mean, Uh, so there began this, I had a drop of hope left, and it brought me a prayer, which I call my final prayer, for a spiritual guide. And this was a new idea for a spiritual guide. After all this studying, I never really prayed for a master. So it was a new idea, and I felt it strongly. So I decided to go back to California with this prayer. And some reason California called me, I don't know why. I was there, like I say earlier, and it was very hard to leave my parents and my friends. But I did feel a pull, a call to go west with this prayer. And shortly before I left for this prayer, or for this journey, I decided to make this medicine wheel. A friend had given me this book with these Native Indian medicine wheels. And I'd always been attracted to Native Indians all my life. And a funny thing kept happening to me through the decades till I think I was close to 60. Almost every week somebody would ask me, "Are you Native Indian?" And, you know, the looks couldn't have did it really. So I just felt it must just be in my essence. And but I always felt a strong connection with their closeness to each other and the earth, and how they honored life. And so I decided to make one of these medicine wheels. Of course, they're a circle, they're similar to mandalas, and it was about a 12-inch. I got a piece of wood, and I chose aquarium stones to put in the colors. And it was a meditation. I made that for a couple weeks, kind of slowly. And when I was finished making it, I had set it aside, in front of me, you know, about 6 to 8 feet in front of me, and sitting there gazing into it. And all of a sudden, everything turned to energy. Just everything I seen was dancing energy. Not just for an instant, but it went on a few minutes. I had a radio in the background, and even that was different sounding. And it was, it felt wonderful to see the energy, though, you know, it surprised me. So it lasted a few minutes, and I just was so thankful to this medicine. I felt the medicine greeted me in a certain way. And it let me know that there's just so much more that we don't see. And, you know, our feeling is so connected to energy. So I got ready for my journey west with that prayer, and I'm more than halfway across the country coming from Michigan, and all of a sudden I'm in Arizona, and I'm driving along. I had a pickup truck, stacked, you know, all my stuff, and felt just pulled off the road, just non-verbally, but just pulled off the road, like, no, you need to get off the road, like there's something there. And there was this sweet pasture with a couple horses in, and in the sky was a shape of this big bird. huge feather or a cloud formation, you know. And I stood there for a while and just kind of in wonder and felt lifted. And I call that an encounter with the Holy Spirit. It felt like a Holy Spirit that just invited me off the road to take this in, but it seemed like there was something more than the beauty, and that was the wonder part. Wasn't quite sure. And I suppose I could have stayed there a while, but I was probably only there about an hour or so. Got back in my truck heading west, and just up the road, less than 30 miles, was this little town called Williams. And it's about an hour south of the Grand Canyon. Very beautiful land, virgin forest and San Francisco peaks coming in, and I was really taken by the beauty. And this road, or this town, had a road going west and east in a circle. So every time I was on my way west, Route 66, it's, in fact, I think it was that year when they finished the highway. So this was the old Route 66. I mean, the original. But so I'm heading west to continue on, and I just couldn't leave the town. Just circled around. Okay, I'll circle around again here. And I'm going slowly, and you know, it's a little quaint town, not touristy really, just your old-timey shops, kind of, a couple restaurants, post office. Trying to go again, and I couldn't leave. Again, I had to circle around. Good thing they had a circle. Didn't have to back up and turn. So I circled around again and again, tried to leave, and again. And so the last attempt was a restaurant with hotels around it. And said, well, I'll pull in here. So I walk in, they had the counter and some booths, and the whole front was windows, so you could see these virgin forests, you could see the peaks, San Francisco peaks, and just beauty. I walk in and sit down, and here at in the booth, the first booth there, was this elder woman with this long silver gray hair, definitely an elder. And I look at her and I realized she was in my dream the day or two before I left Detroit. So didn't know what to think. It's kind of in a state of, okay, awe, what's next? And we started, she was very friendly and was asking me, where are you going? What do you do? And I told her, well, I was a cook, you know, in Detroit. I'm headed to California. Didn't tell her a whole lot more. And she said, well, if you want to come back here, I'll give you, you know, you can cook and I'll give you a room. And I was really surprised by that offer. Afterwards, you know, I realized, yeah, well, she was in your dream. So I, of course, thanked her and took that beauty that I could with me of that little town, and got to California, trying to settle in that in Bay Area with work and all, and it was not too far from Chinatown in Oakland. So I was there some months and kept thinking about Williams and maybe returning there. And the prayer I've been holding for a spiritual guide. And it turns out my neighbor invited me to tea next door, and walking in I see a picture of Mayor Baba, who I didn't know yet, and asked her, "Who is that?" "Well, that's my spiritual guide." And he said he would bring all religions like beads on together like beads on a string. And I didn't seem to ask a whole lot of questions, and she didn't say a whole lot more. I was just beginning to pack up to leave and get my truck ready. And she also gave me the little book, The Everything and the Nothing by Mayor Baba. So I packed that. So I decided to return back to Williams with this prayer, my final prayer, which felt like, and take a sabbatical just with that prayer. Just focus on that prayer. And so I did return to Williams and started cooking and living in the hotel room and exploring the beauty and the nature a lot, and really focusing on that prayer, just cooking and walking and eating with it, and just holding it close to my heart for some months. And a couple months later I was there. She had a little home that I think somebody must have moved out of, and she gave it to me to live. It was a sweet home, 1-bedroom home, wood burner fireplace. It was wonderful, and I'd go out in the prairie and get wood and cut wood for the fireplace, and just felt so in love with the land amidst this prayer. It's really helped me, because it was kind of an isolating time. I didn't want to get too involved with the locals. So it was getting intense with this prayer. Lord, I need a spiritual guide. And I knew God was love. I had no question that God was love. And then an event happened, a significant event. And it was between sleep and waking, soon after I went to sleep, but I didn't really feel asleep. But there was this sound kind of coming from that direction, and it was this growl that was just very unearthly growl. I couldn't even begin to connect it with any sound I ever heard. Any animal sound or whatever. It was just very unearthly to my ears. And this force, I didn't see an image. My mind kind of put maybe a cat-like image, but it didn't sound at all like a cat, but it was not real big. But this force kind of just leaped to my throat, and it happened very quick, and almost too quick to be afraid, though the growl was just, it didn't scare me, it just puzzled me to the max. I couldn't imagine what it was. And my feeling was, I'm okay. I'm okay. Whatever that was, whatever happened, I feel I'm okay. So a couple days or so, 2 or 3 days, I really was focusing on that prayer probably more now after that event. And then it happened. The greatest moments of this life, it seems. And again, I was between wake and sleep. And to the right side of the foot of my bed, I know now, it was Baba appeared in this white sadra. I could see like dark hair. And his face, looking in his face, was just radiant. I couldn't see any eyes or features, just radiant. And he just filled me with this love, unimaginable, unexpressible love, and it seems like in every cell of my being, just flooded me with this love and said, I'm your father and I love you. So, my prayer was answered. And he also let me know all is forgiven, like all the lifetimes, whatever I've sinned or whatever, everything was forgiven. I'm your father, I love you. And I'm sure it only lasted a few minutes. It seemed like more than a few minutes. And I was just thoughtless, just stopped feeling. So I don't remember the rest of the night, or I know I felt like kind of in awe for a couple of weeks. It's like, did this, I couldn't put any words to it. But I felt my prayer was answered, and soon Mayor Baba's name was with me, and my father I knew. Was Mayor Baba and my guide forever. And I had no doubt, 200% sure God is love. And God's with us. And he answers prayers. So, Mayor Baba answered my prayer. I've been in love like I can't imagine. Day by new day, this love ocean. So I'm his girl. Thanks for letting me share this most wonderful story.